There's a place in the Middle East that was once a big desert.
Now it's a bustling city with the tallest, longest, widest, all sorts of crazy records. Keep watching and we'll show you.
Hi, welcome to Around the World with Joshua and Alyssa. We are happy that you would join us once again. And today, Alyssa's going to get us started off by telling us about...
Dubai!
Yes.
Yeah. So when I went to Israel, we had a quick stopover in the airport in Dubai before we went to Jordan, which is where we flew to next. And then when we came back, on our way back to Guam, we had like a full 30 hours in Dubai. So I'm going to show you some things from my time when I was there.
Alrighty.
Now the bummer was I wasn't as great of a photographer. I take much better pictures now, so always keep that in mind. But I have a couple pictures from inside the airport, and I should have taken more because this airport was really impressive and I didn't even know it. It had some really cool artwork on the walls, and the place had like a mall, and it was the biggest airport I think I've ever been in.
Probably.
When we got to the arrivals part of it, the ceiling in the arrivals part was like so tall, and the whole thing was just massive. There were just like people and stuff everywhere. But it's all very themed, and everything really like fits together. Even artwork on the walls goes all together with their themes, and they had like little representations in these pictures of things you could see all over Dubai. So this was just when we flew through, but then when we went back, we kind of got like a little mini tour of the city and some of the really impressive sights. So if you go to Dubai, you're going to see all the biggest, best, better things of the world. This is like a bracelet thing, but it's like big enough to be a man's shirt.
Yeah.
Like it's huge.
Is that a real diamond?
I don't know because I couldn't read Arabic.
Okay.
But it was impressive, and it was like
huge.
This big centerpiece at the beginning of the market that we were going to, and it just was massive. I was like, what is this thing?
Wow.
Should try to look it up and find out more about it. But we went to a market, and as always, markets are just so cool because of the colors, and I don't even know half the stuff.
And probably the smells.
Yeah, I don't even know what this stuff was, but the colors of it were so cool, and they're just like mounded up like that in big piles everywhere, and there's all sorts of different things to look at, and spices, and
I would be afraid to make a mess if I was scooping some of that stuff out to buy.
Yeah, right? But it just looks cool and has so many different textures and stuff when you look at it. This one is laid out a little bit differently, but then you could see how you could like weigh it and stuff for buying whatever you're wanting to buy. And they had not just spices, but lots of really pretty plates and pottery and stuff with more colors and more patterns. It just felt like everywhere you looked there was more color to everything. And the time of year we were there was like March, so it was pretty hot. But this market is all kind of enclosed, and it's got like it's an open market, but not open market because it has these like little mat things for a roof above us. So it was much cooler because you weren't in the direct sun, which was really nice. But there were like all these halls that you could go down in the markets of like so many different vendors and things you could look at. And actually, if you look like straight ahead, kind of on the right, there's like that white outfit with like some red on it.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a very typical outfit that you'd see the men wearing. And that red thing, that scarf would have been tied around their heads, kind of like the boy in the bottom corner. He's got like a blue shirt on. It's kind of tied around his head. That's what you would have seen like typical men wearing, a white outfit like that with the thing tied around their head, a scarf. So here's another view, kind of looking down one of those little market streets when it's not super, super busy. They have a lot of different scarves too, because the women, most of them cover their heads. And if you want to go into a lot of the religious places, you would have to cover your head too. We didn't have time to do a lot of that kind of stuff, but we did at least get to see this really cool market. And everything in Dubai is bigger and better and taller and longer, and like they have so many stats for like the most of everything in the world. So when I show you more pictures, I'll talk about that a little more. But our tour guide, when he was taking us around the city, kept just naming off numbers and lengths and distance, and he just knew all of it, just like this one thing right after the other. And after a while, I just couldn't even take in the numbers anymore. It's a really crazy place. A lot of really creative people, too. Think outside the box.
Mm-hmm. A lot of rich people, too.
Yeah, there's a lot of money in that city. A lot. And they've done some crazy things with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a new story today. It's not a missionary story, but it is a story about a child in another country and a good life lesson this child learned, specifically about dealing with sin.
Okay.
So you can go get a snack, and I will tell a story. So this story is called Whiter Than Snow. And actually, my mom used to tell this story when she was teaching kids classes when I was little, and I really, really liked this story. So then when we found the pictures for it in the story, I got really excited that I could just share this story with you guys too. So it's called Whiter Than Snow, and it's about this little girl named Annette, and she lived in Switzerland. Now, if you live in Switzerland, there's probably going to be a lot of snow outside, and like a typical Swiss morning, there was a lot of snow. And Annette rolled over and she thought about getting up, and then as she was just kind of cuddling back in her sheets to sleep just a little bit longer, then she remembered it was Christmas Eve and she had to get up. So she jumped out of bed. She knew she had to get up right away because she needed to make some coffee for her grandmother, and she wanted to make sure she had some breakfast for her father too when he came in from the barn, because it was going to be cold with all that snow outside. She looked over to the bed right next to hers, and she saw that her brother Danny wasn't there. He was already up, but he had forgotten, and he had left a little bear made out of cookie that she had left for him on his shelf. It was kind of like a little tradition that they always would have this little cookie bear to eat for Christmas Eve, and she had made it for him, but he just hadn't seen it. So she got up, she put her little shawl on, and she went downstairs to see if she could start the morning and see where everybody else was. And when she got downstairs, she saw her dad and her little brother Danny, and they were leaning over something fluffy on the floor and messing around with it and looking at it really close over by the stove. And as she got closer, she realized the thing that they were holding was alive. It was a small cat, a small little kitten, and they were feeding it some milk from a bowl. And Danny looked up and he said, "Guess what? You thought that Father Christmas wouldn't be able to come and that he only went to rich boys, and Father said that Father Christmas wouldn't come because he can't make it to the little houses up in the mountains here in Switzerland, but he came. I left my shoes outside and this little kitten was inside my shoes. It's a gift from Father Christmas, just for me." And Annette smiled. Her brother was really excited about this little cat. But he definitely had been very cold being left outside. Danny said, "I've been thinking about a name for him, and I think I'm going to call him Claus." So that was going to be his name. Annette sat down in her grandmother's rocking chair, and she just kind of rocked, and she looked at her brother and at her dad, and she just did some thinking. She began thinking about 5 years ago and how different things were. At that time, she was about 7 years old, and she had gone with a neighbor boy to go to a church service. And she had even gotten her own little cookie bear at the church service. And after the service was over, she was coming back home with the neighbor lady and her little boy, and the little boy's name was Lucian. And Lucian had eaten his cookie bear as fast as he possibly could. And when he saw that Annette still had hers, he wanted some more of hers. And she said, "No, never. I'm not going to give you any of mine. You ate yours too fast." She didn't like this greedy boy. He just wanted things for himself, and she didn't really want to have anything to do with him. So she sat there, and those memories were coming back to her as she was thinking about it. And then she looked at her brothers who began to talk, and he said, "Father, what would have happened to my kitten if it had been left out in the cold all night long and had gotten so cold that it had died? Would it have gone to heaven like Mother?" Oh, that reminded Annette more of some of the stories from her past. It reminded her of coming home after that time at the church and asking her father, "Oh, Father, is Mother better?" And he said, "No, she's worse, but she's wanting to see you." And so Annette ran up to see her mother, and her mother said, "I have a gift for you." Well, that made sense to Annette. It was Christmas Eve. Of course she had a gift for her. And her mother handed her a bundle and said, "This is your baby brother, Daniel, and I want you to take care of him. I want you to take good care of him for me. Can you do that?" And Annette didn't quite even understand everything, but a little bit later her father came and told her that her mother had gone to heaven and that she was going to be there, but now it was Annette's job to help take care of her little brother, Danny, and to take care of her father. And that was a really big day for her, but she was working really hard at doing her best to take care of her father and her little brother, and her grandmother came and moved in with the family just to help out a little bit more, which was a huge blessing. But her grandmother had a lot of health problems too. She wasn't able to do everything. And just as Annette was thinking of these things, she heard her grandmother's cane and her shuffling as she walked down the hall. And it reminded Annette, "Oh no, I didn't make the coffee for grandmother." So she hurried up and she told her grandmother, "I'm so sorry, I didn't make the coffee yet. I'll get right to that." And grandmother said, "It's okay. It's Christmas Eve. I understand. Let's just see what's going on." So she came over to see what Danny was doing with the little kitten. And Danny asked this question again: "What would have happened to my kitten if it would have been frozen? Would it have gone to heaven to be with Mother?" And Annette said, "Oh, what a silly boy. Why does he ask such questions?" Well, after they had a nice warm breakfast together, they all sat down with Father to have a little time of devotions out of the Bible. And Danny said, "Please, Father, can you read something about heaven? Those are my favorite verses because that's where I know where my mother is, and I want to see her someday. Please read some verses about heaven." And Annette knew lots of things about heaven, and her father read a few verses, and then grandmother said, "But do you know what, Danny and Annette? There's something that will never be in heaven. Do you know what that is?" They thought about it. Grandmother said, "Sin. There will never be any sin in heaven. And someone who has sin in their heart does not have a place in heaven." Annette thought about that, and she thought about that boy Lucian, but she really didn't want to have anything to do with him. "I can't be friends with that mean, selfish boy. I don't even want to talk to him. I don't have anything to do with him." So she had that little piece of sin in her heart, and she left it there, even though she knew it was wrong. You're going to have to come back next time to find out what happens next in the story. And come back next time.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we have a missionary today who we have told you about a couple times before, but the last time was about 6 months ago.
Oh,
at least.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. So let's go and show them who it is. Today we are looking at Rhonda Green, Micronesia, more specifically the island of
Guam.
Yeah. So Alyssa got to work at the same ministry where Miss Rhonda is for several years. So here's a picture of her. And the last 2 times that we did a highlight of her, we showed you videos. The first time a video that we made, and then the second time a video that someone else made for her ministry. This time we're going to show you a few pictures that are actually not so recent, but they are just some reminders of what her ministry is there. And so she does ministry among ladies, a lot of like Bible studies, and she will take people to the doctor when they need it and just help them out. And because she's a nurse, she can help them out with a lot of the health things herself. She works a lot with the college age group and the teens, and bringing young kids to church on the bus. And so these are some pictures of her doing some hikes and some outings with some of the people.
She's a really good hiking guide. She knows a lot of great hikes on Guam. Yeah, and she's really good at like identifying plants and knowing good ways to go. Like, she's really tough.
That's really cool. I didn't know that because I did not go on a hike with her while I was there. But she reported just recently in her missionary updates that one of the young men who she used to pick up on her bus route sent her a message and said, "Do you still pick up people and bring them to church?" And she said, "Yeah, I do." And here she found out that this guy who had moved away and gone to Hawaii was now back on island and living there, and he wanted to come to church. Found out that he wasn't within the range of her bus route, but he's an adult now and old enough to drive his own car. So eventually he came to church on his own, and she was really excited to see that. And he attended the college age Bible study and loved it. He just couldn't get enough of the Bible. And so she said, pray for him that he will keep coming back, that he will keep staying involved, and that he will grow. Another one of her bus teens has now graduated from Bible college and is now helping her pick up people for church. So it's cool to see that come full circle. And that young lady is also teaching kindergarten at the Christian school.
That's cool.
Yeah, so Alyssa knows a little bit about what that's like.
Yep.
She said, thankfully, the bus ministry continues on with the help of many people, driving like 15 passenger vans and other things, because right now the church bus is in the repair shop. And so it's been nice to have all these people step up and help out with that. She says COVID has really hit the island hard, as you know, and she is thankful that she has been safe from the virus so far. She has not gotten it and has been able to help so many other people who have been affected by it. She also said that she has seen God work in many people's lives over the years, and yet some of them still turn back to the ways of the world. So she said, would you please pray for the many Bible college students who are stuck on Guam because of the COVID restrictions and make it difficult to return to their own home islands around there. She said some of them have gone through the difficult process of doing the testing and the vaccines and all the quarantines and everything so they could go home. But some of them have stayed and they don't attend church or make wise choices anymore. So that's really sad to see. So when she sees them on social media, she tries to encourage them and tells them that she is praying for them, but she can't change anyone on her own. Only God can do that. And so you can be praying for them, and Alyssa would know the ministry better than me and what it's like with the people and their culture, and maybe some of the difficulties in seeing people start following Christ and then...
It's hard though if they go back to their island and they don't have family who are believers, and they just go back to whatever was normal life before, and everybody just expects them to be the same. So it's really hard for them to make a big life change like that and to go back to what's normal or what had been normal. So yeah, and all of that, COVID has been really hard for the island there, and just the way they've responded to it has been really tough. But I'm thankful for the ways that Miss Rhonda's been able to reach out to lots of different people and encourage people even who have been sick.
Yep. So that is a big part of her ministry right now, because even though it's on American territory, things over there are probably quite a bit difficult than they are here in the States. Thank you for watching and joining us once again for hearing about Dubai. Come back next week to hear some more about Dubai. I'm looking forward to that. And some more of Alyssa's story, and we will see you again.
Bye.
Bye.